and then just add more to that.
Okay, so hello and welcome to our College of Science and Math Dean Speaker Series. It is my honor to welcome our speaker today. And before I start with the introduction, I would like to make several housekeeping announcements. This is a hybrid event with participants joining virtually through Zoom. The event is being recorded. The room is equipped with the sensitive microphone system. So there are microphones, I believe, around the room. So please refrain from talking during the presentation because anything gets picked up. That is being said, following the presentation, we will have a Q&A session for both people obviously who are on Zoom and people who are present here. Remote participants are encouraged to submit questions in the chat box, and then we'll manage those questions at the end of the talk. Of course, silence your phones, please. Now, again, it is my honor to welcome our speaker, as well as a special guest, Mrs. Lida Abella, who is Chief Executive Officer of U.S. Lumber Corporation and is a member of the Rowan University Board of Trustees since 2012. Thank you very much. Joining us to have Dr. Rhodora Romero-Aldmetia, who goes by Ola, to spend the day with us. We had a great talk this morning with the packed room, and it was more on the science side of innovations in food production, and this talk will focus on the communications. So we are really glad to have you here. Dr. Rhodora Romero-Aldmetia got her BS degree as well as her MS degree at University of the Philippines. Then she moved as a Rockefeller Scholar to Purdue University, where she got her PhD degree with Professor Thomas Hodges. She was a postdoctoral fellow in Germany at Albert Ludwigs University. Her research interests focused on genetic improvement of rice through genetic engineering. She has been a member of the Golden Rice Project team at AUF and Field Rice. The former positions, there are many, so I'll take several. I'll just read several. The former positions are those of research scientist at International Rice Research Institute, chief science research specialist at Philippine Rice Research Institute, former president of Philippine Society for Biochemistry and Molecular Biology. Currently, Dr. Rhodora Romero-Aldmetia is the Director of International Service for the Acquisition of Agri-biotech Applications, Southeast Asia Center, and the Director of the Global Knowledge Center on Crop Biotechnology, based in the International Rice Research Institute at Los Baños, Laguna, the Philippines. She's also an editor-in-chief of Philippine Journal of Crop Science. And as I said, there are many other positions that she's leading a lot of the efforts from. There are many awards that our esteemed speaker today has won. I'll mention a few. She's one of the 10 outstanding women in the nation's service for the Philippines. She's one of the 10 she won an award as 10 outstanding young scientists in the Philippines. Science Prize in Biology from National Academy of Science and Technology, Philippines, with the World Academy of Science from Italy, and one of the most influential Filipina women globally. The title of today's talk is Raising Public Consumer Understanding and Perception of Agricultural Biotechnologies. And with that, welcome.
I can talk about I don't know it's very difficult to have it. Good afternoon, everyone. It's nice to be here once again. And yes, this morning I had a talk on the food food innovations, genetic engineering, and genome editing. And then we're talking about how we would let these technologies be known all over the world. Actually, this talk is the same talk I gave to the high-level policy dialogue of the APEC, Asia Pacific Economic Cooperation, which was held in New Zealand, supposedly, but we did it on virtual. So that's how it is. So okay. So yes, thank you very much for inviting me for this for coming over again at Rowan, and this is my second time, as I said this morning, and it's because of my aunt, Adele, and also with Boki and Rigid and Jenny, and yes, everybody here, and Steve. Yes. Okay, so actually the title of my talk at that APEC should be Public and Consumer Understanding and Perception of Biotech, of Agricultural Biotechnologies, but I added the word racing because it's nothing if you say something like that, but you don't use the word racing because it's not an action word. You have to increase awareness by the public and the consumer so that the technologies can be made known to everyone and be adopted and accepted, and all the benefits will go to us. Okay, so at ISAAA, our mission is to facilitate informed decision-making among different stakeholders in the developing world through various initiatives. So notice the word developing world. So our focus, we're a nonprofit organization, charitable organization, and we deal with developing world. So where is the developing world? It's all over. So we have, since I'm in Asia, so all of those in Asia, except for Japan and South Korea and Australia, everything, every country there is developing. So we have 4 prongs. We have 4 strategies. The first one is packaging of biotech information. Second is how do we facilitate the knowledge sharing, the sharing itself, the development of science communication modalities, and assisting domestic biotech programs. So this is where the networking comes. When I say assisting domestic biotech programs. So first, let's go to the packaging of biotech information. And when we say this, this focuses on the different stakeholders, people who are involved in biotechnology. So from the developers to the to those people who would communicate it, to those people who will take the technology and to distribute it to the farmers. So the first one that we have is the annual brief on global biotech crop adoption for 2019. Well, this is the recent one that I have presented this morning. ISAAA has been documenting the adoption or the takers of biotech crops all over the world since 1996. And this has been the, how do you call this, the standard bearer of ISAAA. Because without this, ISAAA will not be there. So we have started working on this since 1996 under Clive James. Anybody who remembers Clive James? And he has retired. So when he retired, I took over the development of the book. So he retired in 2017. So from here on, I'm working on that. And so you see here that how many people have been reading that. Yeah. So we have the reach in Twitter, the news, and the blog. So whenever we do a launch of the brief, we have different ways of letting people know. The first one would be the launches, the seminars. So we go to different places all over Asia. And so I will be jumping from one place to another, having my suitcases, changing the suitcases. And it was fun in the beginning. So tiring after some time. And with the COVID pandemic, I can do that through virtual seminars and have done that twice through virtual seminars. And so from those virtual seminars in different countries, there were news coming out. So from the reach of 4.82 million reach, 13% comes from the news articles published everywhere. So when you do a launch in China, you are sure to get a very high reach, because you know how many people in China. It's the internet, or social media in China is really immense. So it is always a must that I have to do a launch in China to make a big reach. The second one is India, because of the population. And then we go from Vietnam, the Philippines, Malaysia, and all those countries. Before I was hopping planes, but now I'm hopping Zoom links. It's much easier. So we also do Twitter, and we have a blog in our ISAAA website. Oh, I would like to invite you to check our ISAAA website, ISAAA.org, ISAAA.org. And so all of this, some of the materials from the brief are lifted by writers, by news article writers, journalists, and they can translate it into different languages. So we have English, Spanish, Indonesia, countries, USA, Thailand, and Canada, for example, and the sentiment is usually 50% neutral and 48% positive. So currently, we're still looking at the negatives, but when I get to the last later part of my talk, I'll give you a sense of what is the perception now on biotechnology. So we will see how this changed. Okay, so again, so this is our flagship publication. And yes, so the global adoption data, the highest, we have an impact factor of 37.21. And you can see that our data has been published in many different journals. And you can check that out, that if you, immediately after we publicize or after we launch, you can see articles in each of these journals. And you can see here, this is the chemistry, and these are from different parts of the world. And then these are now the derivatives, meaning that some of the data in 355 can be modified or can be transformed into PowerPoint slides. So this is the most popular one. Before, we were able to give this away because we want people to know that this is ongoing. We would like them to know the benefits and others, and how much it has transformed, Biotechnologies has transformed the whole global community. So, but now we are selling this. We're running out of money. So we have the PowerPoint slides. We have the executive summary, which is for free. And we have many different materials or infographics that you can see at our website. Why do we do this? Because the global status report, the book one, very limited people read it. Those who can only understand what Biotechnologies is. But when you see these infographics, which are very easily understood, this is where we reach the consumers and the general public. So that's why our packaging is directed to different stakeholders. We also have new ones, which are games, quizzes for the young kids. We desktop, the games, card games, something like that. And it's very useful, especially for the youngsters. So if you would like to see our website, you can download this. Most of these are for free. So these are called derivatives. And the information materials are being used by students, this is a senator from the Philippines, so I was giving her some infographics. This is a game. And then these are now the small materials for the young children. So this is how we do the packaging to target the stakeholders. And the messages here are easily understood, very simple. There are drawings, caricatures to make things simple and understandable. And then now there are now information materials we develop. So this is now the second type, so packaging of materials, and then the information materials that we prepare. We have this packet K, or packet of knowledge. So this is a 4-page, usually a 4-page expose or narrative on technologies that can help young people understand biotechnology. These are being used in the secondary schools. So in the Philippines and in some parts of Asia, especially in Malaysia and Singapore, they come to the ISAAA website and they give assignments looking at the different pocket of knowledge that we develop. And then we have infographics on talents. So this is one. This is actually a partnership with Two Blades. Two Blades is a foundation based in Illinois. They're working on the use of talents in developing crops which are resistant to diseases. So they're working on fungal resistance, especially on wheat, the rust resistance on wheat. So we have developed for them this Packet K, this infographics on what talents means and how talents is being done, its usefulness, and the Two Blades Foundation, if anybody would like to partner with them. And this is one of, I'm going to jump at this point because I'd like to emphasize that this is one of our collaborators who come to ISAAA to help them developing this type of materials. So they are, Two Blades is one of those. And we have done that for the last year, and we are going to make a second year of collaboration where it's not only the technology, but the products that they have developed so that they can be takers in the manufacturing industry, so that they can use the technology in developing new varieties of crops. So another information material is the Biotech Communication Series. You can see the titles, Voices of Change. These are the voices of the farmers, science and popular media, from fear to facts. When some people in the Asian region decided to change their fear, and now they believe in scientific facts. So these are interviews of people, different stakeholders from different parts of the world. Farmers first, these are interviews from the farm, and talking to farmers and on how biotech crops change their lives, improve their lives, and improve their families and their situation in the community. Quotable quotes, these are also from different stakeholders on how biotechnology can be used. Inside the Biotech Lab, this is a primer for newbies, for people who have not been to the Biotech Lab. So we have taken pictures, different pictures of a laboratory in the International Rice Research Institute. If you're familiar with IRRI, they have how they call this, high-class laboratories comparable to what we have. We've been touring this morning and this afternoon. So we see that people can get to know that inside the laboratory, there are many things that can be done. Science and She is a special publication where we emulate women in science. So we have scientists, we have science communicators, we have scientific entrepreneurs, biotechnologists, and I will tell you about this more in a little while. My Bio Carnival is this is one thing that we did. It's very new in Malaysia before, when we had models, fashion models, and they used biotechnology as the inspiration for all their clothes. Can you imagine that? With the raw materials and the design, with the DNA and whatever. And so I was one of the models, but it was like a joke. Because I was moderating and suddenly they called me, you have to wear something. Okay, so I wore something and I paraded like a model. But it was something to break the monotony. And then media, messages, and metaphors. This is what our communicators need. How to make things simple. So you can download these. These are for free and straight from the scientists. These are quotable quotes from the scientists, biotechnologies. So I invite you to look at our biotech communication series and download each one. And every time that we have an engagement with different stakeholders, they identify which biotech communication series can help them most. So for example, if we go to the farm, these are farmers first. We make copies of this and distribute this to the farmers. And if we have policymakers, we have From Fears to Facts and also Voices of Change. So something like that. So we are developing this year in, year out, maybe around 3 or 2 to 3 in a year. So these are one of those examples. Next would be, how do we facilitate knowledge sharing? So we do this first through our ISAAA website. And you can see there that we have started from 2010, and we have now been growing up. There were some dips because of, there was problem with our internet access. And so that was a bit down, and now we are going up again. So the ISAAA website can be, you can download it at your cell phone and or your computers, and you will see there many different things. So the first one would be the website resources, the resources. So when COVID-19 came, we were pressed into doing resources on COVID-19 because we want to know, there are many speculations on what were the causes of COVID. Were they naturally made or were they made by, you know that. But now through this resource, our audience get to know what is COVID-19, how it came about, what are the treatments. And you can see here, crop biotechnologies that can help in developing vaccines for COVID-19. Although currently we don't have plant-based COVID-19 vaccines. Yeah, we don't have that. But researchers were on the way, we're progressing during the beginning. And you can see the efforts of crop biotechnologists in producing vaccines from tobacco, for example, or from other crops, as long as it's crop-based. And then we have genome editing. So we have done this since 2016. You can see the resource, and you can see there the science, the regulation, the crops in the pipeline, and country thoughts of countries on how to do policy considerations on genome editing. We also have a resource on Bt Eggplant, because in the Philippines, Bt Eggplant is something new, and since Bt Eggplant was very controversial, you know that in India it was prohibited, but in Bangladesh it is propagated. So it's the Bengali people are enjoying the benefits of Bt Eggplant. But in the Philippines, it has just been approved for food, feed, and processing, not yet the propagation. So in order to help Bt Eggplant be understood globally, we put up this resource on Bt Eggplant, and we still have a lot of resource publications, videos, and infographics. So who are our target audience here? We see that these are a little bit more technical. So these are for people who understands the science. But then they're not as technical as can be. They are easily understood, although our audience here are more of the researchers and the policymakers. Now, our next picture is the crop biotech update. I don't know if you have seen this in your emails, but ISAAA has this e-newsletter, which has been there since 2000, the year 2000, when we introduced this. So currently we have 25,000 subscribers. So if you go to the ISAAA website, you can register your email address, and every Wednesday you will receive this e-newsletter. So we have different news, and so we have the headlines, which are featured in the first page of our website, and we can see here what's going on. Actually, the target audience are researchers. It's a bit technical, and you will be led to the original publication. So we just do not get any publication because this should be refereed, this should be based on actual publication of the news. All right? So if you have anything to contribute, any new thing that you would want people to know, just email us, and then you can write a two-paragraph article, and then you can lead it to the link. And we also, from the Crop Biotech update, we also produce blogs. Okay, so this is just how much we have: page views, Facebook shares, sent to a friend. This was before 23,504, but currently we are close to 25,000. The links to other websites, RSS access, and the recipients in the mailing list. So currently, the Crop Biotech update is being translated into these languages: Indonesia, Chinese, Japanese, Korean, Thai, and Vietnamese. So when you go to the ISAAA website, you can see the Crop Biotech update and the translations for the month. Okay, so these are the reviews. What do people think of Crop Biotech update? So from the beginning, since it was established in the year 2000 up to now, it is being used by researchers and the ministry, university, and what is it? And industry also. So you can see the reach of the richness of how many people being helped by the Crop Biotech update. Sometimes we are approached by the industry, by the university researchers. Please feature my talk or my research in your Crop Biotech update, because sometimes we cannot scroll or we cannot see. It's all under our radar, especially if it's on written in a different language. So they tell us, okay, so we connect with them and we help them publicize their new research. This is important because, especially if the research is going into the technology part, we want people to know that there are new technologies which can be taken for commercialization. So it's easier for them to get in contact with those technology papers. So here's an example of how the Crop Biotech update is being translated into different languages in different parts of the world. So these are some of them. You see there English. I think it's Chinese. I don't know the other one. And then, so these are more of this, translations. CBU as a reference in many of the publications, books and reports. And then reference CBU as reference by these different journals. Actually, if you're familiar with Ag-Bio Forum and PLOS ONE, they are much, Crop Biotech update is being used to be referenced in these journals. Now, the second feature is the GM approval database. I have introduced to you this one this morning when I said that approvals all over the world are being monitored by ISAAA. So we have the GM approval database. So these are the crops. And you can see here the search engine. And there are the traits. And you will see there that it is very much updated, much more updated than the biosafety clearinghouse of the Cartagena Protocol on biosafety. So people come to us, and you can see there, it's an extensive, easy to use, and up-to-date featured approvals, GM events, links to regulatory and biosafety documents. This is important because for every approval, for every event approval, you will know the crop, you will know the trait, you will know the dose shares. What country approved that event? What are the conditions? What are the active genes, commercial genes, selectable marker genes, familiar of selectable marker genes? So these are very good information for our industry and for our researchers, and also for countries who have just been approached by a technology developer. So for example, in Vietnam, they give approval for food, feed, and processing if there are 5 OECD countries who have approved that GM event. So where can you see that if the Biosafety Clearinghouse is not updated? So they come to ISAAA and check if there have been 5 countries who gave approvals to a certain event. And that means the technology developer would not need to go through risk assessment anymore. It's automatic. As soon as the Vietnamese regulatory system sees that 5 countries have approved the particular GM event, they will give approval to that event immediately. Although a registration, of course, is required. So that's why the GM approval database is a very important resource at ISAAA. It appears on the top of Google search results, and we have been continuously improving this. We always feature the new approvals in our crop biotech update. So if you would like to be given an update of what has happened, anybody approved this event in what country? So you can just look at the CBU or the crop biotech update and you will check on that. So these are the reviews of our GMAD or GM approval database. And we have from USDA APHIS, a professor from University of British Columbia, on how he has been using the GMAD on the trade, and a journalist from Sydney, Australia. So these are the wide spectrum of stakeholders which come to our GM approval database. And I'd like to invite you to there. Okay, since we have come into the new era of webinars, ISAAA has also a resource on webinars. So this is an old data actually. I couldn't get the new one. I was in a hurry. So these are the webinars which we have done. GM crop adoption since last year, genome editing, animal biotechnology, impact of GM crops, gene drive, science communication, and we have done also science diplomacy. We're still continuing all these webinars. So I was telling during our meeting with the faculty that we are going to have a genome editing regulation, a continuation from in partnership with Murdoch University, Australia, where we're going to have Japan, China, Pakistan, and India, regulators from these countries who will give insights on how their countries are giving policy considerations on genome editing. So we have already publicized that in our crop biotech update. So if you want to register, unfortunately, it's in Philippine time. It's 1 p.m. to 4 p.m. in the Philippines, and that'll be our 1 a.m. to 4 a.m. here. So if you're awake, you can just register. So in this resource, we have the Zoom videos. You can download that, and also the PowerPoint slides. So most of these are there in the webinar resource. And also we have the social media. We have been using the social media since it came into being in 2016, and we have reached this number of followers. We have ISAAA blog, Twitter, and Instagram. And so this is now the details of what Science and She is. So from I think it was 2015 when we started Science and She. So we were featuring some of the famous women scientists, entrepreneurs, biotechnology communicators, and all that. And we asked them specific questions, and then we featured them in the social media. We call it's an ISAAA.org Science and She Facebook account. And we have featured them, and we have continuously featured them, and from those accounts, we came up with a book, one of the monograph series, and you can see how these women have really influenced papers of biotechnology. And I invite Rowan University researchers to contact me, or I'll contact you, so that if you would want to be featured, we will feature you. So this one is Usha Zer, one of the owner of a seed company, Matiko, in India. And this is from Africa. And this is Pamela Ronald, if you're familiar with her. She's from UC Davis. And so I've been featured here, of course. And one of the first, because we established it. And it's very nice because we give chance to our women, because currently women are not regarded as, well, in the science platform, we have men, usually men, but we know that some, women also play a big part in our space, biotech space. Okay, now how do we develop science modalities, science communication modalities? Okay, one of those is Bt Eggplant Project. This is one project very important to us because eggplant is a vegetable important to Asia. You know eggplant, right? So in the beginning, we were doing only ex-ante studies because we were not allowed to cultivate eggplant yet, until now anyway. So with the impact study, this was around 2012, and this was following the banning in India. So India banned the use of Bt eggplant, even trials of Bt eggplant. But Bangladesh did not ban. So they continued on testing. And currently in Bangladesh, Bt eggplant is planted in wide areas. So we developed ex-ante studies, we developed pocket case, we developed an infographic. So which eggplant will you choose? This is very, very understandable, especially for young people, the general public. And then we have videos. And finally, in June this year, Bt eggplant was given an approval for food, feed, or for processing. And we are now developing or putting together those shares for application. And we are continuing the science combination modalities for Bt eggplant. Actually, in all of our engagements during our webinars, we always feature a scientist who did the Bt eggplant project in the Philippines. And it's a good thing because straight away, people can ask the scientists. And that's one important thing. You know, the credibility of scientists in the developing world is really immense. It's higher than the governments. Yeah, that's you know how government in Asia is. Okay, so that's one, Bt eggplant as an example. And then this is the same one that I gave a while ago. This is in collaboration with Two Blades. And so we made science communication modalities with their products and with their company. So we made this and we featured them also in a webinar. So this is the CEO of Two Blades Foundation. This is Dr. Diane Horvath and some of our colleagues who provided talks for this webinar. So the title of the webinar is Innovative Tools for Crop Breeding. So we had Diane Horvath, who talked about talents, and Jimo Botella from University of Australia, Victoria, who talked about CRISPR, how it is applied in crops. So we were moderators and rapporteurs around. These are all my staff. And then, yeah, infographics. So those are the science modalities that we do. If we partner to someone, we can do all of this and we can provide them the creative tools, we can provide them information, or we can help them develop. You see, we can also, we're still developing a video about the Two Blades talents technology. Okay, now the next one is we're doing research also on how biotechnology is perceived in the community. So this is one, the adoption and uptake pathways of GM crops by small-scale resource-poor farmers, comparative studies in China, India, and the Philippines. And we went to these countries, China and India, well, in the Philippines, we were there, and we got in contact with farmers. How did biotech crops improve your livelihood, improve your community and your family? And so we have group discussions, we have surveys, and we came up with a book. We launched the book during this event, this meet, and I was moderating the whole thing. But it's very important that as early as 2013, when most of these countries have just planted biotech crops for less than 10 years, we saw that biotech crops have indeed improved their livelihood, their state, their family status, and all that. So it's one of those that we have done a research on. We're also developing another proposal so that this can be continued, because currently there are other countries which we can be interested in, and we'd like to know how are these countries faring in terms of the benefits on biotech crops. So this again is another study, 17 years of media reportage of modern biotechnology in the Philippines. So what we did is our staff went into the 3 biggest newspapers. So the first one was 2000 to 2009, and then the second one was 2010 to 2016. And we saw how our the Philippine public perceived biotechnology. So from the first study, we can see that the fear factor is still very high, but then it has gone down after 10 years. And it was emphasized that there are more potential promise. So this has been going up. And because of human intervention, the ethics, people who are afraid that we're playing God, something like that. So it has changed definitely. And we are now preparing the study from 2017 up to the current, so it's going to be another 10 years. So we're still developing and collecting publications on biotechnology, reportage of modern biotechnology in the Philippines. Since the Global Knowledge Center is monitoring advances in biotechnology in Asia, this study was mimicked in some other parts of Asia. So a study has been done in Indonesia as well as in Thailand. So they're looking at if there has been any changes. Because in Indonesia, for example, they have just started planting biotech crops. In Thailand, they have not planted anything, and the government is very much against it. So what were the factors that make the country like that? So we're studying that as well. So we have a group in Thailand who's doing that. And then this is very important to researchers. So this is a study looking at the academics and scientists as science communicators. You yourself can be science communicators. And then the perspectives, capabilities, and challenges in Southeast Asia. So we're looking at the Philippines, Malaysia, and Indonesia. And we can see here that there is a low level of engagement on science communication. It's really very low. Medium for these countries, and high, what is this? So the level of engagement is not as high as we need it to be. So at that, of all the scientists, only 10% attended science communication trainings. Do we really need to be trained for science communication to get to the public? And here is the baseline data, % of time per task on how are our scientists doing this. So science communication is only 11%, of course, 49% for research. And there are ways by which we can meet scientists and journalists, or scientists and science communicators, so that they can teach the scientists on how to impart biotechnology to the public. So these are some of the research that we do at ISAAA. So this is my publication, and this one too, that one. Yes, some of this with my colleagues who retired in 2016. Okay, so now let's go to the network. I've been telling that I belong to Global Knowledge Center on Biotechnology, so this is our network. And I'm handling here, Southeast Asia, and we have partners in Latin America here. So these are all under my my responsibilities. And we have from West Africa, in Mali, Burkina Faso, Egypt, Uganda, and Kenya is the Africa Center, and we have an Africa Bio in South Africa. So all of these we collect data from. That is why we are able to publish the annual review of biotech crop adoption. So here, these are the countries. And these are the prime movers in their countries. So for example, if I need a speaker from China, I'll just contact the director of the China Biotech Information Center, and he'll help me to identify one speaker. I need a speaker from Japan, and then this is how it is. And for every activity that ISAAA does, we all have this network to distribute information, invitation to all our stakeholders. So the network is very active, it's ongoing, and this is the strength of ISAAA, because we can network everywhere. So that's, but you see, we don't have a network in the US. We have one with Two Blades Foundation, and I have been, the Michigan State University has been tapping me as a speaker in their yearly training course on biotechnology, because I give the status report. And beyond that, we don't have any. But of course, we have, oh, I forgot to say that. We have the US, we have Cornell. Where's Cornell? Over there. Right? Where is it? Oh, over there. Here. Okay. Yeah, our financial hub is Cornell University. But we are slowly developing and strengthening the regional centers. Okay. So we have our in-house experts. So she was my former boss, and she retired. So I'm the boss. And these are our creative artists. So they give very good tips on how to do infographics, write in layman language, how to do videos, and in-house. Very, very easy to develop some new product out of these talents. And so the ISAAA also collaborates with the Biotech Philippine DA, Department of Agriculture Biotech Program Office. So we do these activities with them. And I'm a member of the steering committee, Biotech Steering Committee of the Department of Agriculture, so that all our activities are in harmony with each other. So somehow I am a tech, of course, I'm a scientist by training, but I'm doing science advocacy right now. But I am being tapped as a reviewer of proposals on biotechnology. So when those proposals can come into fruition with a technology and they're going to be published, I'm the editor of a journal. So I can easily see how one technology goes from the lab to the paper and to the technology adoption or for taking by entrepreneurs. So this is a review of Rosalie Eliases. Is a farmer in the Philippines. So she gives a review of what the Knowledge Center does. Updates about biotechnology are important because I'm often asked about issues and concerns on biotechnology. And she has been a speaker globally. She has been tapped because she's a biotech farmer. And as a lady, she's always on the go because a lady farmer is unique. So she has been giving accounts on how we were able to train her and to do farming on biotechnology and to express herself on how biotechnology has improved her life. And also this is from an academician, and she's also Filipino, and she told us about the outputs to date from the investment on the Global Knowledge Center clearly show value for money. So this is a call. So if you or anybody whom you know would like to partner with us to develop these modalities, we are welcome to collaborate with you. And we are expanding. We, as I have told you a while ago, we are into animal biotechnology, into gene drive, and into genome editing, and many other sciences. And we're embarking into science diplomacy, and also for Impossible Burgers. Have you tasted that? Food futures. Okay, yeah, I think that's the last slide. Yes, thank you so very much.
We have some time for questions now, and when we wrap up formal part of the questions, we'll have a short reception where you can talk in an informal manner with our speaker.
Well, you've had a long career, first as a bench scientist, plant scientist, and now as an advocate for policy, education, communication. Can you talk to the students in the room and also remotely about your path that you took? How did you become a scientist? How did you become a director of an international organization? And what can they do to take the first steps on a career path?
Thank you, Steve. Actually, it's every time I'm invited to give commencement speech in our university or in our high school, that is my piece. How I became me. You know, it's always two-pronged. You know, G by E, genetics by environment, and you have the phenotype. So if you have your genetics with you, if you're interested in science, whatever you are interested in, then you go for it because you have it in you. You have inherited that trait from your parents. But if the environment doesn't allow you to do that, then you are stalled. In my case, my parents were both, well, my mother is a science teacher. So I was honed from grade school till high school, and till I get to the university, my interest in science grew. And I didn't know that I would be involved in this. I really wanted to be a doctor. But then since we are a poor family of 5 siblings, and my father died when I was 11, you can see how difficult it was for my mother to get me to medical school. So I went into science. So from the university, from secondary school to the university, my focus is really on science. And I didn't know that science has a great potential for your vocation, for becoming a professional. I was only thinking of teaching science. But when I get to the university, I learned that there are many different aspects. So I am a trained plant pathologist, a virologist, and I learned that the scientific method will lead you to something, a discovery that you have never imagined would be very useful. So using the scientific method, the discoveries, and thinking of what the future will be with your technology is something to look forward to. So in the Philippines, most of our graduates from science, from BS biology, for example, go to medical school. But now we are training them to go to research. So what we have put in our curriculum in the university is to train them on how to write proposals and indicate there your interests, write your proposals, what you want to, what thing would you like to be changed in your community, in your life, in the problems that you have in your country. And then, well, since we are a poor family of 5 siblings and it's only my mother who's earning, I had to go for scholarships, and I had to do some other things to have income. And so it's a good thing that the Rockefeller Foundation gave me a scholarship to come to the US and study as I do. If not for that, I wouldn't be able to finish. But I learned that science really has a future. So for people who are not really decided yet on what to do, look at what science can do. There are many different things, and science is everywhere. From the moment you wake up till you go to bed, back in the evening, you have been exposed to the products of science. And without scientists who have developed those, you will not be able to enjoy the perks that we have now because of scientific innovation. And so I would like to encourage you youngsters to look at what interests you. For example, there are many, in this campus, I have learned that there are many different things that you can do, although you don't have yet the food or crop biotechnology. You have many different scientific breakthroughs in medical, in engineering, pharmaceutical that you can pursue. And once you have developed that knack, K-N-A-C-K, for science, you will see that it will open many doors for you. And it did for me. I didn't know that I'm going to be like this. I was just a bench scientist using a pipeter and getting cells and putting it in the dark room, see if it grows. If it doesn't, do it again. So you don't get tired of that. And then when I became a member of the Golden Rice Network, okay, so I had my postdoctoral at Albert Ludwig's University, and it's all on golden rice. And I didn't know that the importance of that. And now we see that golden rice has been a very important product of biotechnology. When I gave a talk in APEC, they were asking me, in your country, do you have an incentive if you go for science communication? I mean, for scientists to go to science communication. I said no, but you see, with the approval of golden rice, it's more than an incentive. It's a breakthrough of my life because golden rice is my baby when I brought it from Germany to the Philippines. So it's one of the awards that you get. It's like having a Nobel Prize because finally your product is there, it's going to be in the market, and you will feel the same way too. And that's how it got me into science, and now science advocacy. Yeah, thank you, Steve. Yeah.
Thank you. A question from online. You talked a lot about how communication impacts reducing fear factors surrounding biotech and genetically modified crops. What is the best way for everyday consumers to find out more information about GMOs and product safety?
Okay. Actually, when you say product safety, it connotes, okay. First, if you do labeling, you shouldn't link product safety with GMs, because there are GMs which are exposed to unsanitary conditions and you're going to get sick, right? And then if you put the label on that and it's GM and you expose it to unsanitary conditions and then you're going to link the two, it's not science at all. So we have to make sure that GM labeling and GMO, there's no concern on food safety because all of the products coming from biotechnology have been tested. We have regulations, international standards, just like the Codex Alimentarius. So it provides you tests on whether the product will provide or will give allergenicity, toxicity to humans. So those are tested before they even get to the market. So food safety is not an issue in GM. It is safe. And there has not been any reported hazardous or lethal effects of GMs to humans. None. But if you compare with organic agriculture, it's immense. You can go to CDC and you can see the statistics on how organic agriculture, has already given a lot of problems in the past and up to now. If you're not careful, you're going to have problems on food safety. It's in the handling and all that. But for biotech crops, before they are commercialized, even if it's GM or genome edited, they have passed through those tests. So it's safe and there has not been any recorded hazardous effects to humans and livestock on biotech crops. Thank you.
Questions from the audience, please?
Hi. You mentioned that India has banned all trials of the Bt Eggplant Project.
Hi, I love it.
Sorry. You mentioned that India has banned the trials of the Bt Eggplant Project. At what stage was that banned in India, and are they trying? Did they do something different in the Philippines to get it approved versus in India?
Yeah, actually, in 2010, it's not really as an issue of safety or efficacy of the technology. It's political. Yeah, so there was this political conflicts between departments and which department would want to approve it. One department has already approved it, the Department of Agriculture, but the Department of Environment doesn't want to approve it. But all the trials have been finished because the Bt Eggplant technology really came from Monsanto and provided to Mexico, which is an Indian company. So India should have been the first, if not for this political conflicts between the two departments. So from 2010, it influenced the Philippines. So we had a ban also in the Philippines. And ISAAA was a broker because we partnered with Mexico in India to bring the Bt Eggplant to the Philippines. And so the Philippine Bt Eggplant Project was also affected. There was also a ban, there was a court case, we spent a lot of money. And then at the end, the Supreme Court said, this is mute, this is void. You can void this because the trials have all been finished. Because what we were asking in that court case is that field trials shouldn't be conducted because it's unsafe. But how can you make a conclusion that it is unsafe if you're not doing a trial, right? So it's just logical. So later on, the Supreme Court in the Philippines turned around their decisions. And on 2015, it was again provided an approval for field testing. So it got continued. And so currently we have an approval for food, feed, and processing. But in India, there was a review to revive the Bt Eggplant Project, but it got stalled again. It's political reasons. It's not for the technology. Because we see that it has been propagated in Bangladesh. It is now approved in the Philippines, and those shares for propagation are being collected so that it can apply for propagation.
Was another question?
So I guess you're building a network, right? What other countries would you like to work with?
What is that question?
So if you're building a network, what other countries are you developing countries do you want to work with in the future?
All right. So we are establishing the Latin American one because when I showed you, we have 3: Argentina, Brazil, and Costa Rica. So we would like to embark into Peru. Peru is one country which really need biotech, but there is a ban on biotech in Peru, but we have a biotech information center there and they cannot do anything. We just provide them information materials and for distribution to the policymakers so that they can stop the ban in Peru. We also have big problems in Ecuador, in Guatemala, and there's another one. I forgot that, but we'd like to strengthen Latin America because Brazil and Argentina, as I explained it earlier today, they belong to the top 5 biotech countries, and they can easily influence the neighboring countries. Because you see how important biotech crops in Brazil and Argentina, and they are the biggest exporter of soybean and corn for livestock. And you saw Argentinian beef, because of that soybean and corn there, as well as in Brazil. So if countries around Brazil and Argentina can see the benefits that these countries have, they can easily improve their lives. But currently, there are a lot of policy changes in there, especially in countries like Bolivia and Colombia, where they embrace traditional biotechnology. They don't want new technologies to come into their countries. And so that's one area where we would like to get.
Thank you.
So in the interest of time, if our students have classes and so on, we'll wrap up the formal part now. Let's please thank